This is the video that you need to get fully prepared for the very crucial fantasy football NFL Week 11. Whether you're trying to make a fight for the playoffs or whether you secured your position, this is the video. I'm going to lay it out for you, all the optimal players that have the best matchups at position and the worst matchups. We're going to go through all of the positions here. I'm going to leave some timestamps below, but I want you guys to watch the entire video and stay to the end because I'm going to give you all of the defenses to stream and some great tips that are really going to help you get an advantage over the competition here as we head towards the fantasy football playoffs. I can't believe week 11 is here. This is crucial. This is important. This is the only video that you need. If you're new to the channel, this is very important. Smash it, tap it, slap it. I looked at the analytics. A lot of people come to this video, they see the algorithm hit them on their news feed, and then they're like, okay, they watch it, and they haven't actually subscribed. So subscribe is the only channel giving you the truth. It's the only channel to tell you to go robust RB in a position that is so scarce. People are looking at waiver wire week 11, and there's nobody else to get. They're looking at guys like Gainwell. It's that desperate that you're looking at guys that are like RB2s and RB3s. It's crazy. So this is the only channel giving you the truth. Hit the thumbs up. Drop your question below. I get you guys fully prepared. My 16-round draft solution was the truth, and you've made it this far. We're going to crush it all the way to the end, okay? So hit the thumbs up, and if you have a starting sit question, drop it below. So I'm going to start the show here with some latest news and notes here. That's what I like to do, and then we're going to get into I'm going to put up a visual. You're going to see all the guys that have optimal starts and all the guys that have tougher matchups so you guys can make a better decision. Now, as a disclaimer here, when you are looking at starts and sits, like for example, this week, Chase Brown has a tough matchup for his position. Does that mean you're going to sit him? No. But if you're torn between this guy or that guy and you want to make a decision, you can base it on matchup. Knowing if a player's got a good matchup or not is really going to help you with your decisions, okay? Drop your questions below. Let's get to some latest news and notes here. And we start that here, if you're new to the channel, with Breaking Brad. Breaking Brad, where are you?
We now have breaking news.
Breaking news from Breaking Brad here.
We now have breaking news.
Whoa, I didn't cue you in. Okay, easy there, Breaking Brad. He's getting a little excited here. All right, let's talk about a couple of things that are in the news that are worth mentioning. Now, you guys know I'm not a Tyreek Hill fan. I am wearing a Dolphins hat, but I've got a whole array of hats that I wear. I've got like every single hat, but every team. But listen, Tyreek Hill is now complaining. I don't know where the actual news source came, that he's suffering with like a wrist injury. It's been bothering him all season, and that is due to that alleged stoppage, that whole stoppage where he got stopped and almost arrested pretty much on the side of the street. He was detained. According to Tyreek Hill, the reason he's been kind of suffering, he's been nagging with this injury is because of the detainment with the cops. It sounds like BS, man. We're in week 11. This happened like week 1, 2, something like that. I don't know when it was. It was early in the season, and now you're telling me that your lack of performance or whatever it is, you're blaming it on something. That's just a real weak move, Tyreek Hill. So I wanted to mention that. That's BS, man. I don't believe him at all. This is a guy that like cheats on his girlfriend, has like 100 baby mamas. Like, I don't think this guy's got any integrity for his word. And had you have complied and rolled down your window, we wouldn't be in this situation, right? Now, I don't agree. Going back to that, I'm not going to get into that too much, but I think both parties were at fault. But man, oh man, Tyreek Hill should have just complied and it wouldn't have got to the level it was. But it didn't look that rough where his wrist has been injured from that. I mean, come on. Let's move on from that. I just wanted to bring that up in the news. Fantasy news here. I want to talk about here. A couple notes here. George Kittle is dealing with a hamstring injury. It's an irritation more or less, but it's something to be monitored heading into week 11, according to head coach Kyle Shanahan. I think he's still going to play. Devontae Smith also dealing with a hamstring injury, was limited at practice on November 12th. The Eagles, held him through a walkthrough, blah, 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 blah. He's held back. Okay, Dallas Goedert dealing with an ankle, is limited at practice. Okay, not really concerning there. Brian Robinson Jr. hamstring was listed as a limited participant as well. A couple things to note. Nico Collins, I know a lot of people are interested about Nico Collins, and as a Nico Collins owner, I'd be a little pissed. I don't know if you saw it last week, but it was like last minute last week when they're like, okay, Nico Collins is going to sit. Like, why would you wait? Like, you guys kind of have an idea, right? Like, this guy's not good. You kind of know where he's trending. Tell everybody earlier, right? Again, I've got no Nico Collins stock, and he's been a bust this year. Missing 6 weeks out of the season, that is crucial. I mean, that's going to catastrophically ruin your season, especially for being a second-round pick. But Nico Collins, again, here's the update. Hamstring is expected to practice all week and return to action week 11. So held back, but they made you wait, which was kind of annoying. Trevor Lawrence could miss the remainder of the season with his shoulder due to a serious AC joint sprain in his left shoulder. I mean, this is kind of like a saving grace for him because he's been sucking all season. So Trevor Lawrence is going to be out. That's going to definitely hurt Brian Thomas Jr. a little bit, I think, because the backup, Mac Jones, is not, I don't know if I trust him. Okay. Pacheco will be designated to return from IR. Could be a potential league winner. Isaiah Pacheco coming back, but going to be a bit of a committee. I don't know how much they're going to work him and Kareem Hunt's going to be interesting to see. Maybe it goes back to Pacheco being full-time. Adam Thielen, who cares, was dealing with a hamstring injury, activated from IR. Nobody really cares. Dak Prescott, as you know, missing the season. Juju Smith, hamstring is close to returning to practice. They're close. And basically, yeah, I mean, I'm not really a Juju fan or don't really care about him, okay? So that is kind of the latest news and notes. I wanted to bring that up. Now, again, if you do channel, smash it, tap it, slap it. Let's get to all the optimal starts at each position so you guys are completely up to date. Again, hit that thumbs up. Drop your questions below, all right? So let's get to it here. Let's start off with the quarterback position. Who's got the optimal matchup? Let's go through it. And if you're in the car, you could go head over to YouTube as well, but I'm going to be rhyming this off verbally as well, so you don't have to see the visual here. It's nice to see the visual, but you don't really have to see the visual, okay? Russell Wilson coming off a good couple weeks, actually, 3 weeks, 19, 15, and 25 points the past 3 weeks. Looking great, playing Baltimore. Easiest matchup versus position, arguably one of the easiest. We got 14 games, by the way, this week. We got Arizona, Carolina, Giants, and Tampa Bay on bye week. So if you have any of those players, make sure you guys do adjust accordingly. Again, this is a full guide to prepare you for your starts and sits for NFL Fantasy Football Week 11. Russell Wilson, great matchup. Jared Goff, great matchup. Coming off not so great of a week last week. A lot of interceptions thrown. CJ Stroud, great matchup versus Dallas. Now, he has been a disappointment. And you could make an argument that Nico Collins isn't there. You could. I mean, he could come out and tear it up. Now, some people are asking me, like, should I get rid of CJ Stroud? What I would do, if you can, and you can afford to, is wait for a boom week. If he booms with Nico, maybe sell high. But right now, his stock isn't the greatest, but he does have a good matchup with Nico Collins coming back. Could be a big week. Justin Herbert, great matchup versus Cincy. I mean, look at Herbert, 20, and 24 points the past 3 weeks. He's really been heating up, and he continues to have a good matchup this week versus Cincinnati. Bo Nix, great matchup versus Atlanta. Tua, I don't know if you guys saw that video I posted. If not following on Instagram, he was laying out a block. I mean, this guy was diving with his head first, and you can see as he's going to the defender. I'm not gonna pull up the clip here, but you guys go to my Instagram. He's diving in, and his head first, and his head's twisting. I'm like, dude, what are you doing, dude? I mean, everybody's like cringing when he sees, making these plays, but he don't give it a rat's, what. Like, this guy doesn't care. He's just like throwing his body out there, which again, I give him props for having heart and not caring, but you should care about your health, right? You're one concussion away from catastrophic failure. I mean, this is crazy. So anyway, I had to bring that up. Either way, props on Tua for being tough, but he's got a good matchup versus Vegas. I just wanted to highlight the fact that he's just throwing his body out there, and that block or whatever he was doing, head first and defender, was just wild, okay? Aaron Rodgers, great matchup versus Indy. Derek Carr. So Tua, Rodgers, Derek Carr, all great matchup. Brock Purdy, pretty respectable matchup as well. Jalen Hurts, good matchup as well here. And as you can see, if I don't mention them, they've got a mid-range matchup. Like Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, Cooper Rush, Drake May, all mid-range matchups. The guys that have it in tough. Now, I want to talk about this. I also want to note here, for example, if you've got a guy that's got it in tough, like a Jaden Daniels, for example, here, who's got one of the fourth hardest matchup versus position. You see in the red here. I would still he had one bad week last week. If he's your starting quarterback, you roll with him. Unless you have a significantly better, more consistent option with a better matchup, right? Unless you have maybe I see even still like a Russell Wilson's great with a great matchup. Maybe I'd lean Russell Wilson over Daniels because based on matchup, but I would still start your starters for the most part, regardless of the matchup. Just being aware of it is important. Jordan Love, right? He's had a bad couple weeks. I'd be really concerned about Jordan Love. He's got arguably one of the hardest matchups versus position versus Chicago secondary here. A tough matchup. Like example, Lamar, 33 points, 24 and 24 versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's defense has been really good. I own them in fantasy. They've been pretty solid. They've been consistent, right? Watt's a menace. Now, if you look at this, Lamar Jackson Second hardest matchup. I'm not sitting Lamar Jackson. This guy is like MVP worthy, but just to be aware, he's got a tough matchup. So if he comes up with a 15-pointer and you're like, Lamar, why'd you do that to me? You understand that it's not an easy matchup. Being aware is a big part of this. Minshew, I'm not really crazy about. Daniels, Pat Mahomes, Caleb Williams, Will Levis, Kirk Cousins, Jameson Winston, Geno Smith, and Matt Stafford, all tough matchups versus position. This is very, very important that you guys are aware of this when you are making your starts and sits decisions, that you are starting the guys that have been consistent and have good matchups. Okay, we're going to move on to the running back position. I'm just filtering here before I pop it up with the guys that have the easiest matchups versus position. And let's go through it here. Houston running backs, Joe Mixon. I don't know why Dameon Pierce is showing up top here, but Houston, Joe Mixon, good matchup here. Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford. I would probably start Jerome Ford. Nick Chubb just not been doing well. And I kind of told you, coming off that knee, it looks so catastrophic. I'm like, it's very unlikely that he's going to come back to form. And even if he does, he was never, he had 1 or 2 good years. He's a pure runner. He always lacked that PPR upside where most leagues are PPR right now, right? So I don't know. I'm just not really overly excited about him. Carson Steele here. We got good matchup, Kareem Hunt, and obviously we got Pacheco coming back. Steele's not going to get any work. It's going to be Hunt and oh my God, Pacheco. But good matchup here versus Buffalo. We got Dave Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, great matchup. Kyren Williams, outstanding matchup versus New England. We should be aware. Amir Abdullah, Zamir White, Madison. It's going to be the Madison show, if anything. Zamir White may plug in a touchdown, if anything. Christian McCaffrey, all good matchups here, okay? Jordan Mason, so it looked like McCaffrey's back to his old self, getting the volume there. I thought it'd be more of a committee. They'd work Mason in, but it's still Christian McCaffrey. I mean, it just shows you how good that offense is in regards to favoring the running back, because the other guys thrived in that offense, right? So just to make a note there, Devin Achane, great matchup. Aaron Jones, great matchup here. Who else is there? Saquon Barkley, decent matchup as well. Saquon Barkley coming off a 9-pointer last week. Very, very disappointing. Cost me one of my leagues last week. I lost in one of my leagues. Very disappointing. 8.8 points PPR. I think it was fantasy. Very disappointing. Guys that have it in tough to help you with your starts and sits. James Cook's got it in tough. You still not want to sit him. Chase Brown, you got to start him. Now, I did it on the artwork here. It looks like Chase Brown is a sit. Now, again, it's very thin and trim at the running back position. You're not going to sit Chase Brown. Look at this, 23 points, 30 points. He's got a tough matchup versus Chargers. I understand. If you have a better option, which you probably don't, unless you got 16 rounds, then you got to start Chase Brown, okay? Brian Robinson Jr., we talked about some injuries there. Check into that. Eckler, all tough matchups here. Tony Pollard, Spears should be dipping into some of that volume this week, but tougher matchup versus position. Bigsby was banged up, I think, last week. Check into that. But ATN, just to note, tough matchup. Jaylen Warren, tough matchup. There's some upside with Warren now. Najee's got some nagging injuries. We got Dowdle, all tough matchups. The Cowboys running backs, all tough matchups. Jaleel McLaughlin and the Broncos, tough matchup. Alvin Kamara, tough matchup. I don't know if you saw that game. Kamara dropped the ball, man. I don't know if you saw that one pass when the game was online. He just dropped it. Anyway, Kamara dropping a pass. I don't know. I think he's good. He's consistent. I just think he's kind of on his downhill trend of his career, but still viable for the rest of the season. You got to start him. And then you got J.K. Dobbins with tough matchup, and Derrick Henry, 11th hardest matchup for his position. You got to start him, okay? Now you're aware. Just take a look, take a snapshot, and you know who's kind of who based on matchup here, okay? Now we're going to go over the wide receivers, tight end, and defense. Before I do, head over to our partner here, mybookie.ag, enhance that game-watching experience. Now, there is the Tyson fight this week. Believe it or not, there's a Tyson fight. You guys can get in on the action right now versus Jake Paul. Get on the action at mybookie.ag. Use code FFC. And there's also some good UFC fights. John Jones is going to be fighting this weekend. If you heard Dana White, anybody who goes in a room with John Jones is the one coming out. He loves John Jones. And John Jones has got a big fight. Jones and Tyson, two of the greatest at their respective sports. I mean, Tyson's 58 years old, 60 years old, whatever he is. It's going to be an interesting fight. So if you guys want to get on the action, make it more fun, right? mybookie.ag, use code FFC and get in on the action right now. Okay, those are the guys that I used and I like them. You're going to go set up an account and use it for football as well. Okay, that's the site I use and the site I believe in. mybookie.ag, and they'll double your first deposit up to $1,000. Go get in on the action right now. All right, let's get to these wide receivers here. All right, where are the wide receivers? All right, I'm going to filter here by optimal matchups. Let's rip through it. George Pickens, great matchup, coming off a hot week. We got, who else we got here? Mike Williams had that one touchdown. I don't think that's sustainable. I think it was a one and done. We got the Saints here. Valdez-Scantling coming off the biggest. I don't think that's even sustainable. But hey, with those injuries, Scantling could be a viable start if you need a wide receiver. Calvin Ridley must start coming off a hot week. He's consistent, man. Calvin Ridley's a must start this week. Go for it. Demario Douglas, all great matchups here. Who else is here? You got the Dallas Cowboys receivers, whoever you want to trust there. CeeDee Lamb a little banged up. Look into that. Should still be good. Good matchup for the Cowboys receivers. Great matchup here for the Lions receivers versus Jacksonville. Going to be a good matchup. Brian Thomas Jr. versus Detroit. Decent matchup as well, but very hard to trust based on the quarterback situation. Courtland Sutton is now a viable starter. You may want to consider starting him. He has been consistent. 21, 26, and 19. That's all you can ask for out of any fantasy football player. Sutton is delivering with that Bo Nix connection, but absolutely phenomenal. Must start. Wide receivers here for the 49ers. This is a bit of a crapshoot. There is good distribution across the board here. Ricky Rousseau had a touchdown, I think the first of his career. I think it's going to be distributed all over. I think Jennings is a good start. Debo's kind of hit or miss. I don't know if you saw that on the sideline. He basically pushed, what is it, pushed or hit or whatever at, or yelled at. Go look at the Deebo Samuel versus the punter, or the punt holder, the ball holder guy. I'm screwing up my news here, but Deebo Samuel was causing drama at the sideline. Go back and check that out. Deebo Samuel causing some sideline drama with one of his players. There's a video that came out. So anyway, Deebo Samuel is Deebo Samuel. Devontae Adams, good matchup. Him and Garrett Wilson, good matchup versus Indy. Worth mentioning. Nico Collins coming back into a good matchup versus Dallas. Be aware of that. And A.J. Brown, good matchup as well. You got to start those guys that are consistent. Now, the guys that have it in tough, you're still not going to sit Justin Jefferson, but he's got the toughest, hardest matchup versus position on paper. Tough matchup. Drake London, you can't sit him, but he's got a tough matchup. Be aware. Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, still a bit of a crapshoot. Looks like, 1 week, you could see here this trend. You got 17 points here for Doubs, right? Actually, let me pull this up here so it's a little higher. I don't know if you could see it because my face is in the way. But like Romeo Doubs here, he had 17 points, right? Then he had pull it down a little bit more, and then he had 10, and he had 7. And then you have like Jaden Reed, who was the one last week. It's a bit of a crapshoot on who's the one there. It's a bit of a mess. Josh Downs here, you can see 8 points, 9 points. Again, with Josh Downs, I mean, this guy is good. He's the one. Alec Pierce is just not consistent. Michael Pittman hasn't been consistent with injuries. So, I mean, Josh Downs has just been getting it done across the board, man. He's just been kind of the go-to guy, believe it or not. But he's got a tougher matchup, just to be aware. Other guys have it in tough. Tyreek Hill's got it in tough, as you can see here. DeAndre Hopkins has got it in tough versus Buffalo. T. Higgins and the Jamar Chase coming off this astronomical week. He's got it tough versus Chargers, so it should be a big contrast from last week. 58 points last week. Absolutely phenomenal. Outstanding. And Zay Flowers and Khalil Shakir. So Ravens and Buffalo receivers have it in tough. Moving on to the tight ends. Let's go here through the tight end position. The guys that have it in good, Dalton Kincaid. Let me just filter here a little bit so it's easier to see. 1 sec here. Let's go so it's less people. So Buffalo, tight ends, got it good. Again, with tight end, you want to start your consistent tight ends, okay? Guys that are producing, okay? Kincaid, only 4 points last week, not the greatest. It is what it is. Disley's got a good matchup here. So Chargers, tight ends. Miami's tight ends, good matchups. We've got Sam Laporta, good matchup versus Detroit, coming off a good week. I know Williams is back. He's kind of been off this year, but he does have a good matchup. I mean, I would start him. Go for it. Good matchup. Pat Freiermuth coming off a hot week too. Pat Freiermuth, good matchup. He had that one touchdown last week, kind of inflated his number a little bit to 11, but it is what it is. He's got a good matchup, worth a start if you don't have another tight end. George Kittle, good matchup as well. Dallas Goedert dealing with some injuries, but a great matchup as well. Okay, David Njoku, decent. Guys that have it in tough here at the tight end position. Zach Ertz, tough matchup versus position. Jake Ferguson coming off a 4-point, very disappointing week for Jake Ferguson last week. I own him, only 5 points. Brock Bowers, tough matchup. Just to be aware, TJ Hawkinson, tough matchups. Travis Kelce, he's been red hot. You got to start Kelce. I mean, you got to start Gesicki. You got to start Hawkinson. You got to start these guys, regardless of the matchup, but just be aware that it is tougher versus position, okay? Which defenses? Just go to defenses here. Now, with defenses, if you have a solid top 10 defense, go with them. Start your top 10 defense. Start your consistent defense. But if you need one to stream, here are some viable options or ones you may want to trade for or whatever it is you want to do to get these defenses on your team. They do have a good matchup. I do like the Dolphins versus Vegas. I think that's a great matchup here. As you can see on paper versus Vegas, go for it if you can get them. My Vikings versus Tennessee, decent matchup. Saints versus Cleveland, Rams versus New England, 49ers versus Seattle, Raiders versus Miami. I mean, I think that's a bit of a tougher one, but I don't know if I trust it. But because again, Miami with Tua back, they could put up some points. You got the Texans versus Dallas, and then you got the Browns versus New Orleans, and the Titans versus Minnesota. All good matchups versus position, okay? So those are your optimal starts at defense to stream. This is it, guys. This is the week. You got to get it done, man. You got to win. You got to get it done. And I'm telling you, these are your optimal starts at each position. But again, make sure you start the guys that are consistent every single week, all right? Make sure you guys smash it, tap it, slap it, hit the thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, turn on the bell. You keep you guys covered. This is Fantasy Football Playoffs on the line. Week 11 is here. You guys got to go out. You got to win. You got to go out and crush it, okay? If you have any questions, drop them below. I'll try to get you covered. Let's win, guys. Week 11, playoffs on the line. Go get it. Starts and sits week 11. Hopefully this gives you a better view on who to start. Make smart decisions. This is your week. We'll talk soon. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'm out.